Other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
I'm Drew Jack, and I hear a lot of you talking about the right way, or the data is saying that that something works better than other things. I'd just like to know if you're basing that solely on students' academic successes, or are you taking into account other things like students' participation in extracurriculars or music, for example, like things that I'm involved in. Yeah, that's all.
I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong here, that what our definition of success is, beyond just academics, but including the extracurricular as well, and support for that.
Just having experienced someone that did graduate from the school system, my daughter, who I feel is a great success, but sometimes I just felt like maybe we have a somewhat of a narrow definition of success here, and that we do need to expand that beyond just academic achievement. I think that's the most important thing that schools are in business for, but I think there are some other areas that kids can excel in and call themselves a success. So maybe we need to broaden that just a bit. In addition to the academic areas, I think the extracurricular is very important as well. But maybe stretch that definition of success.
I was just going to say, academically, when we talk about academic success, and I think most of it tonight has been in the frame of reference of the standardized testing. Unfortunately, on the standardized test, they don't look at all the wonderful things you've done. Personally, yeah, success is a lot more than my GPA out of high school or my GPA out of college or law school. It's what you do with your life and how fulfilling it is. And truly, one of the, I'm only 38, but I think one of the things I live by is, how do I feel about myself and how do I feel about those around me? I think I'm doing all right. And again, it's my own yardstick, so, but you've got to ask yourself, are you doing the most you can with what you have? And I think that's the way each one of us should look at our lives and look at success. But I think for the debate, or the forum we've had tonight, I think we've been narrowly tailored down to the forced test that is standardized and prescribed by the Fed.
I think that it's a very good observation. It kind of goes into one of the other questions that we were given as pre-prepared questions, and that is, do we see a pay-to-play policy in the future of Findlay City Schools, which is one we haven't gotten to. I think that it's very important to look at our extracurricular activities as opportunities for our children to learn just in a different fashion, not in the same fashion that they're learning in the classroom, but you learn a lot through extracurricular activities. It boosts your self-esteem to find something that you're good at and to really drive hard to be good at that. When I was growing up at Bowling Green High School, I played varsity softball, and if I had to pay to play, I would not have been able to play because we just were not in a financial situation to pay anything for me to play softball. I didn't come from that kind of background. And I think that it would be, I can't imagine a situation as a board member where I would ever advocate any kind of having to pay to be a part of an extracurricular sport or anything other than something where there was an extra cost to go on a ski trip or something like that. But I think it's very important that we consider the extracurricular activities as part of the educational process. While we may not make livings, very few of us are going to be Ben Roethlisberger when we graduate, even though we're good in football. It still contributes to our education. It makes us who we are as adults.
Yeah.
Naturally, I would agree. I can remember when I came here to Findlay. One of our problems was, believe it or not, we came in and set up our own counseling system because we didn't have the government offering stipends to go back to school to become counselors. There are people who left the school system, went out, got their education paid for to become a counselor, and came back and were counselors in the various schools throughout. and in most instances, in all fairness, did a great job. But when we got here, we had 7 people who would not have graduated if we had not gone back in athletics to find out how these young people were doing in school. They didn't have the classes or the grades to graduate, and nobody had done anything about it, Jeff. So I think there's a place for sports. If I were going to advocate anything in all of this, it goes back to a question or something that's never come up tonight. You know, if there's a problem in the school, if I listen to teachers who are teaching today, and if I listen to parents who have kids in school today, which I do, believe it or not, the thing I hear is discipline. And you know what I think? I think part of the reason we have these problems are the courts, for one thing, our school system, who uses this as something to lean on. We can't do this and we can't do that because we're going to get sued. I've been hearing that for years, and yet when I asked one of our legislators right here in this building, I said, how many teachers in the state of Ohio were sued last year for handling a disciplinary problem in the school? You know what the answer was? And this is what his speech was all about. He said, I don't know. I said, if you don't know, how can you get up there and tell us about what problem we have in trying to maintain discipline? And he said, well, do you know any? And I said, well, I know of one case in the state that I know of. It's a school down here in Medina, in Ohio. He said, well, what happened? I said, the judge fined the teacher a penny and said, anything that is necessary to maintain a disciplined atmosphere so the student may be taught is acceptable. Now, when is the last time we had a meeting with the judiciary right here in Findlay to determine what they will back and what they won't back as far as discipline in our school systems? And I think part of the reason for that, when I came here, of course that was back in 1802, the superintendent said, we have saved 5 openings so that we can hire 5 coaches. That's assuming you can find somebody who can teach in these areas. And you know what? We found them. And the idea being, if you can't coach, if you can't teach, and if these people can teach, and you have another male teacher in the building to help maintain discipline, I don't see anything wrong with doing that.
By my clock, it's 9 o'clock. I think we'll wrap things up here now. Appreciate everybody for coming and asking your questions and hopefully clarifying things for you. We'll be around next week as well.